Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy TJ, aka Sly. This is the Heat Okinawa. Got my family with me.
We back.
It's a packed house tonight. Yes.
It is.
Yeah. Everybody, where you at? Who in here? What's up?
Oh, me first?
Yes, you. We ain't heard your voice in a minute.
Abichola's back in the house. So,
Get it?
yeah.
Yay, another female in the
One of-
house.
I know, it was about time.
One of the originals.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the originals. No, not really. I was like the second generation.
Oh, yeah.
I was the
yeah.
second
Might be
generation.
announcement, so that's
Yeah.
You made the cut.
You made the
I
cut.
made the
You got
cut.
it right.
What
Hey,
about
this
you?
is Wednesday Writer.
It's your boy Ken the Hood for one last time.
What?
And DJ Cass.
Your boy Rello.
Time out, how you gonna drop that?
Yeah, he dropped it.
Yeah,
gonna drop that
I
on
dropped
us?
that.
We
My
just gonna
bad.
walk past
For those
it.
that didn't know, Kid in the
Yeah.
Hood is leaving the scene.
Next
For
Saturday.
good? Oh, yeah, I
I mean,
remember. Okay, I was
he
drunk,
gonna
but I
come
remember
back and
having this
visit.
conversation.
Yeah.
He gonna come
Yes,
back and
I
visit.
remember.
I'll be back in like November. You know.
Oh, really?
What? I thought you were leaving permanently.
Yeah, he flying me out in November.
Oh,
Oh, I
he
thought
family.
That
He
is
has to come
crazy.
back.
I thought, okay.
You gotta make sure he ain't married yet. You know.
So you gonna get married before you leave?
I'm tired of her. All right. So look.
This is how stuff starts.
So this y'all aren't the only people that say this. I have people at work saying, "Y'all gonna go back to the States, get married, and have a kid." I don't know where
Oh
this.
damn, you gonna have kids too?
What the? I don't know where this coming from.
You gonna have a boy or
You
girl?
still gonna be in the military?
It's common.
Yeah.
Just PCS?
I still got 3 more years.
Oh shit.
I mean, how many
He's gonna
kids?
come
So how many
back.
kids you wanna have though?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know
I
yet.
mean, you are a
I
kid.
gotta
you
go-
are a kid in the hood, so I mean, you gotta take care of yourself too. You know,
Hey,
I don't know.
I gotta go talk to Faith, man.
Just don't rush it. That's the best advice I can give you.
Hey, I let
I
Faith
don't
lead
I
my
don't
way.
think he been rushing it.
Hey, look, I let.
He's
Hey, look,
taking
I
all
let
his
Faith
time.
lead, man. I let my Faith lead.
Funny as shit.
Whatever floats your boat.
You don't believe that now. Look at that face. You don't really believe that.
Hey, nah,
That's why he put the hood on so he
Hey,
can
look.
hide the lies.
No, it's funny because y'all know the name. They didn't catch it.
This man.
This beauty right here.
Me and this man's conversation last night about Rondo. Oh my gosh.
Hey, that's why you
Good.
gotta let the Faith lead, man.
Hello.
It's like Zoolander. I'm trying to get my Zoolander on right now.
Oh
Like
man.
Tita.
So-
Hey, but speaking of having kids though,
Mm.
so Rello brought up an interesting topic that's up for debate in Texas right now, right? Rello, what's up? Expound on that. Tell me what you heard.
So, going on right now, Texas is now passing a bill. It's not passed currently, that women that's having abortions are subject to the death sentence. So,
Right.
which I also need to read into is because I don't know if this also dictates where the man gets any type of punishment as well. Because whether the man talks to the female, convincing her to have the abortion, I don't know if the man would get any type of
Penalty?
punishment.
Guilty
Yeah.
by-
It's like
Yeah.
So I'm wondering-
second degree or
Yeah,
something.
that's a dip.
That's crazy.
So I'm wondering if as well, but that's on the side of it.
Yo, I think that's like really crazy because we're gonna start adding variables in there real quick because like depending on like how that baby is like
Conceived.
like
Yeah.
it can be understandable like that's probably a part of your life that was your worst. You don't want to remember that. Not saying that the child was any problem. It was just the way that baby was conceived. So
I wonder, like, what really goes into that. So, like, for example, women who are raped, like,
Right.
you know,
That's-
like,
that's
you
my biggest thing.
shouldn't, if they don't want to have that baby because of how that baby was conceived, like, I don't think they should be penalized with, you know, something so crazy like that. I was reading into the article that we were just looking at before that, and it said the reason why they were trying to pass that bill is because the death penalty is given to somebody who murders a child under 10 years old or something like that.
So I guess the question is, at what point do they consider, you know, the child in utero or after birth a child? And
Correct.
So I'm not well versed on the article, but I think for me it always boils down to medical right. You know,
I agree.
never mind the personal and emotional belief behind, but more the medical right. Is someone making decisions for me in my medical rights in what I can and can't do with my body.
Right.
I mean, insurance companies already dictate what I can and can't do.
Correct.
based on what
Yeah,
I
but-
can
but
and
now-
cannot.
you can't be in,
Right?
But
you
now,
can't
you
afford to
know,
be in this
now
accident
now,
right now.
now there's the law defining what is the definition of life. It's defining when they consider life to be viable, and it's also considering, what I should do with my body, or what my partner and I should decide, or what my partner is coercing me to do. I mean, there's so many
There's so much that goes to-
variables, and what mental state I'm in, and so for me, I always
even your life circumstances at that point.
Yeah,
Like if you're not
absolutely.
legitimately,
I'm trying to point you.
if you're not qualified to take care of another
child.
life,
regardless of
Rather
a
take care of
person's
all of
individual decision, I just think that taking away something that we have,
freedom.
that is medically sound and safe. I mean,
Right.
we're talking about what, 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. These abortions were done in closets with very unsafe. Women were dying at the table, and now, because of an agenda, personally driven party agenda, it's it can take away the right for something medically sound.
it's crazy how politics get involved in
Yeah,
every
and that's
damn
my
thing.
my concern. I don't want to decide for anybody else, and especially when something is medically sound, because of some
It's
personal
funny
agenda.
because when you see it's the personal agenda of someone behind it, and once it hits the fan in their own family, and it's like, okay, so what do you do then? You're gonna let your daughter die because she chose to have an abortion behind your back, and whatever the case may be.
And so if we're arguing like, okay, we don't want abortions, right? So then what are the systems in place to support infants that are born into families where they weren't wanted in conception, right? Where are really the systems? The structure's not there to support an infant. I mean, we don't have enough adopting families, and we don't have an infrastructure to support. Even the word orphanage just sounds so chaotic. I mean, so archaic to me.
Think about Oliver and Company.
Right, and not to say that, to each his own, but man, to pass a legal, to be taken, a right to be taken away because of some legal wave is for me hard to swallow.
Are you surprised though? Because I'm not surprised because
No.
it's Texas. It's
I
a
was
very
about to say-
conservative state. Like
I'm not surprised that it's Texas, and I'm not surprised that it's happening in this
Era.
administration.
I'm just
Basically.
scared because
That
I'm trying to
one-
move
that one
back
key.
there. That's crazy.
Because in every administration, this conversation sways left, right, middle. It's in every administration, the conversation about abortion and women's rights always sway one direction or the other.
For sure.
That is crazy though. But I mean, hey, that's kind of goes into like the next one, like if it's funny how you speak on, if it's gonna have anything against the man involved as well, that kind of shows how the loyalty lies within that relationship. It's like
But we say loyalty in a good way, protecting one partner or the other, or
I would say yeah.
coercion into being loyal.
I would say so speaking personally, disclaimer before I was married.
in the
She just
car.
have a bubble
Wifey in the
come
car.
on. Oh, is she?
Wifey in the car. Yeah, she in the car.
She's in there, yeah.
You know we talking about.
She
So-
listening.
She listening.
Yeah,
She
I mean, you can hear it out there.
Because she
so.
popped up when he said wifey's in the car.
So, for me, when I was still in Texas, before I joined the Marines, there was and I mean we had talked about it a couple of shows ago, but there was a young lady. She had an abortion. I didn't know about it. I ended up paying for it. Didn't know about it, but that's one of those. I had to keep that secret between me and her. That was one of those she couldn't really tell everybody. So my loyalty lied with her in that like. I
That
don't wanna-
decision.
Exactly. So, I mean, loyalty is different when it comes to the circumstance, I think. I mean, when you look at, I know me and Wifey were watching Narcos, and freaking,
It's a good shit.
what was
You
his
don't
wife's
have a
name?
choice.
Tata?
They will limpiarte el pico if
Yeah.
you talk. Like,
Yeah, they will fuck you
I
up.
mean,
Literally.
so I don't know if that's loyalty or if that's fear, right?
No.
Because I was
I don't
watching
know, 'cause-
Some-
Escobar. What's the
Pablo Escobar.
Pablo
Pablo
Escobar, yeah.
Like, I was
Narcos,
watching his-
If you watch Tata, she was She loyal, man.
She
It's
was.
like not like-
She was also
Not like Tasha
I
in
don't-
Power.
El Chapo's wife, where just recently when he got arrested again,
She was like, I know nothing.
she was like,
I
I
ain't
didn't
know
know he did anything wrong.
Which is
What?
the wife
Yeah.
that's made a lot of money out of this story. One of the mafioso wives has made a lot of money based on their husband's story. I want to say it was a Chapo's wife.
Yeah.
Is
It
that
was
true?
Probably.
Yeah,
It was probably
Kingpin.
there's a guy that's actually he was Pablo Escobar's like
Right hand.
His main Sicario.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the hitman.
And
Yeah.
he's like super
Freaking-
famous right now for basically exposing Pablo Escobar, but he didn't do it out of.
He didn't really expose him. Pablo was already dead. I mean,
Well, I guess exposing, you know,
How the system
everything, how the whole system worked. But I guess he's like a multi-million.
Just out of somebody else's.
Yeah, just that.
Yeah, somebody
telling
explain-
somebody's
His-
story.
That's so
his
scary,
nickname
though.
That's
started
not
with a P.
loyalty.
His
Is
nickname
that
started with a
loyalty? Like
P.
you're making money off of somebody else's.
Story.
No, because he,
Right? Is
I mean,
that
he was very
I mean,
successful.
It,
like,
it could
in
be
the
something
game.
else underneath the covers that's going on that,
Well,
that he's
that's
still hiding that
true.
loyalty. Maybe he was, you know,
That's true.
he was supposed to come out and say everything about it, so you know they can make money
That's
on
true.
Narcos and all that
And
stuff.
watch that money. I've been watching too
Carrie
much
sounds
Power.
a little,
Right?
sounds a little.
What about loyalty
Salty.
when, let's say your partner is keeping a secret from his family and he wants you to play along, or she wants you to play along?
Well,
Like, don't let mom know we met on Tinder, like that kind of
yeah,
secret.
no,
Nah,
but-
it's gotta
no,
be something.
More
Gotta be
more
like,
severe.
Like last week we talked about, you know, children showing up 20 years later.
Yeah.
So what about like,
Oh man,
right? Like, what if you know your partner has a child, but the family doesn't know? Or we talked about different religions. What if there's a, you know, a really strict situation in the female's family and the partner's of a different religion? Like, just something along those lines where they have to lie to be, you know, to protect their partner. They have to lie to the family. Like, would you consider that a loyalty?
I would consider
Yeah.
that a mixture of both the love and loyalty aspect of it. Like, I mean,
Sure.
Is
because
there
they're
anything you
with that.
would
They're
not
with.
cover?
Well, I think like depending on the right person, you find the right person with the right.
Wifey, I got her back.
Yeah, depending on the right person, the true love there. Like for me, like I don't have a problem going to the ends of the earth. Like if it's something that like she honestly don't want me to tell my family or her family, like yes, I have loyalty to my personal family because that's where I'm from. But then again, like, I still have loyalty to my significant other who I'm with.
Yeah, it's like that's her business, our business, you know.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, not everybody needs
It's
to
not my
know.
business to spread around though. You know, if she doesn't want me to say anything, don't say anything. It's not her parents' business. If she doesn't want to tell them, it's not your parents' business.
I think, I mean, if your significant other is trying to keep you from, or asks you to keep a secret from their family, I mean, I think you should respect it.
Yeah,
You should respect it
From
because
their
it's,
own
Yeah,
family.
kid-
yeah, if it's from their
family.
own family, because that's just the respectful thing to do, in my opinion. It's
Yeah.
not your place to be jumping in and telling them things, because it's gonna cause more chaos and turmoil between them.
All right, so I'm
Then-
gonna drop in a
Variable time.
Okay. Oh shoot!
She got all excited.
I did.
Time for
I
variable.
did.
So
Variable
what
time.
if-
Can I buy a variable?
What if your partner is beginning to show signs of addiction and
Damn.
begs you not to tell the family? See,
Wait,
look at the faces.
what kind of
look
a?
at
What
these-
kind of a?
Hey,
Oh wait, hold up. You gotta specify
I
addiction.
still-
You
no,
gotta
I still
specify
stand by it,
addiction,
though.
Like,
sexual
I still stand by it.
addiction.
Any
Anything.
kind of addiction, right? Let's just say an
Unhealthy
addiction, like
addiction.
they're starting to show signs of addiction and you're starting to get concerned, but
Well,
they're begging you, please
I
don't
feel
tell my
like
family,
that-
please
Well,
like-
help them get help.
Yeah, like
Help 'em
that.
get
That's
help.
a
Like,
that's a great area.
if it's gone beyond my ability to help them,
You need their
then,
family support.
You know, might have to bring some family support in,
Yeah.
depending upon what the
Yeah,
addiction
no
is.
bullshit.
Because
about
here's
that.
the
It
here's
depends
my
on what the
question,
addiction
right?
is, though,
Where
you know?
where then does the loyalty lie? Does the loyalty lie in
For their
keeping this
safety
and
secret?
well-being?
Yeah,
That-
like for their
that's-
safety and overall safety and well-being.
This is an
Or-
addiction.
I don't know.
That's literally what I was just
Hey, look.
You said we could throw variables in there. So.
But yeah,
Damn, I don't know.
I think the time where you can start having that great loyalty is when it actually does become an immediate like life or death situation where like they're doing something like that can actually hurt them or kill them any second.
Not just them, but
or like
whoever around them.
gambling addiction.
Yeah,
right?
once it can be harmful to
if
them
it's-
or
if it's
somebody
harmful
else,
to
then
them-
100%.
Definitely.
Period.
So at
Like
that point, it's not even the gray area. It's just you're
was
just
about
trying
to
to
say.
protect
It's
them.
black and
That's what I'm
white.
saying.
Even for
Like,
themselves,
that's where
right? Even
Yeah.
like sometimes you just have to protect your partner. Even
You got to.
from
Even
themselves.
you got to play the bad guy at that point. That's black
I
and
wouldn't.
white.
I wouldn't even say that's playing the bad guy in a sense. So you're doing it. You know, your loyalty shifts in a certain sense. It's like you're still loyal to the person. You just say, look, in order for me to be loyal, you need to be alive. So if you're not alive because you're out here doing some
You just
shit,
played that.
then I can't be loyal.
That in order for me to be
I can be
loyal,
loyal, visit you at your grave, but you can't really do much there. So
Yeah, for
at
sure.
that
He's a
point,
little homie.
it's still loyalty. I think
Yeah,
you're still
think
being
it
loyal.
is. I think that there is it's absolutely heartbreaking to see the person that you love slowly self-destruct because of something like addiction and their fear of like the family finding out or their financial situation being exposed and being put in that position of like what is the best decision for this person because they're still somewhat functioning but not entirely, and at what point do you decide I have to tell somebody to get help? So
Well, it
it's
doesn't
gotta-
necessarily have to be their parents either. You can go
Right.
seek help outside of there.
Yeah.
Right.
But if sometimes it gets to the point where they need
That-
close support like,
Yeah.
from people they know, then I think their safety and well-being.
Because
is
I don't care what anybody
definitely into
says.
consideration.
Like, if you are truly in dire need and somebody goes to your mom, 100% of the time you always gonna listen to your mom. So, like,
Hell yeah.
so if like you're in dire need and it's, like nobody's getting through you, I promise you go to somebody's mom and they get through them and they end up coming out that scenario alive, being better. They're not gonna be mad at you. It's just what it is.
My mom would personally get a lot more mad if she found out that I was addicted
After
to
the
something
fact.
and
Nobody told
I
you.
And
didn't
nobody.
tell her, and she'd be like, "Boy, what the fuck I tell you?"
And like, what kind of friends do you have that didn't?
Yeah.
They didn't say anything. Yeah.
But at
that's-
the
that's
same
a hard
time,
one.
so you obviously through addiction that variable. So think about I guess yourself. Wouldn't you like if say I got addicted to what's famous out here, meth? I don't know.
Matt, what are you smoking?
Nothing.
You need to tell us something.
I ain't smoking nothing. I promise you.
Anyways, so you know what's that? The golden rule. I guess treat others how you like to be treated. But at the same time, like if I'm addicted, I would like one of y'all to say something before you go to my family. Say because like I was saying, it doesn't have to be your family to help you get help. You got, I'd assume most people got friends.
You got one or two people in your corner that's not in your family. I don't care what anybody says. You got one or two people
That's what.
that's in your corner, no matter what. That's outside your family.
What were you saying about kids popping up like 20 years later?
Oh, last week we were talking
last
about.
Kids popping up. I was
So
like, hold on, what?
last week we had a question about how do you react if like you're in a new relationship and your significant other from their prior relationship had a kid, but they didn't know about it or just didn't tell you, and that kid popped up. How do you?
Not just any like 8-year-old kid. Like,
Yeah, a
like,
20-year-old.
Like 20-year-old, like an adult.
Paying rent.
15, 20-year-old. Hey, dad. Hey, mom.
Yeah, so like they pop up. Like, how do you react? Like, how do you feel towards your significant other? Whether it was that they knew or they didn't know.
No,
About
they
the kid.
didn't know. They didn't know.
Yeah,
They
they-
didn't
They
know.
they didn't know.
So your
Yeah.
significant other didn't know
mom
that they
left
had a
me
child
before
out there in the
school.
world, and suddenly
I mean,
child shows up and says, "Hey, Dad, I want half your will," or "Mom, yeah."
no,
You
I
better work for that.
Half the will.
You better work for that.
don't. I don't think I would react negatively, but I mean, if my significant other didn't know,
Right.
I can't blame them. If they did know, that would be a whole different story.
2 decades
That's what I
old. I think
said.
you can do your own shit.
That's what I said.
You-
But you know,
I can't get mad if they don't know. Like, it wouldn't
Yeah.
be fair to my partner if they didn't.
Now, what if they did know?
that would be.
Now, here's a variable for that. What
Yeah.
if they were a celebrity?
The child?
Ka-ching.
We about to be best friends.
Shit, I want to be in
We
your
about to
will.
be best friends.
Give me your will.
What's Oprah Winfrey's husband's name? I'm your kid.
That right?
Desmond, what did
You
say?
get a car and you get a car.
Everybody get a car.
Hey,
You
everybody get a car.
Oh,
Hey,
that's
that's
such
my
a bad
dad.
joke. I'm sorry, Oprah.
No, she not. I'm not.
No, I'm not gonna meet
Oprah,
her.
give me a car.
yeah. Hey, Oprah. Pay my contract out, please.
For real.
Oh man.
Huh?
Steve Harvey.
Like Steve Harvey nowadays, yeah, right? Steve Harvey.
So talk about secrets being revealed, or
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Secrets being revealed. So
we got something dirty on somebody? What's up?
Oh man.
On here? In here?
I mean, you know,
No,
Kid in the Hood always,
Wait,
you
you're
know, he
acting
always airs his dirty
suspicious. What you
laundry out
got?
there. You know.
Whoa. What you mean? I don't have no dirty
I
laundry
thought
to air
somebody had a
out.
secret they was going to tell. I was kind of excited.
No, so I know this was probably gonna take us a minute because there's so many variables that can be thrown, right? But
Always variables.
Always.
Go ahead.
so I was looking on Facebook, you know, browsing through, and I saw an individual post something to the effect of, if your child were to show signs that they're, you know, leaning towards being gay, would you try and stop them?
Who wants to go
Is that
first?
a question?
As a question.
No.
Would you try to stop them? You cannot stop somebody from being or liking what they like. Period. Like, you cannot control their sexuality at all. Period. Like, the answer is no. My mom specifically, when I came out to her, she was like, absolutely not. Like, literally, that was her response.
That you were not allowed to be who you are.
Yeah, that I was not allowed to like women, that I could not have a girlfriend. You know, she even like blamed herself for a little while. She thought like, where did I go wrong? And I'm like, nowhere. You've been great. Like, I just like what I like. But the first girl I dated, she was not about it. And then like a year after, I got in my second relationship with a girl, and she actually was like, you know what, let me give this a try. So people do change. I think once they, you know, I think for her it was more like once she saw that it was like a legitimate thing, not like just me kind of like,
figure yourself
trying to,
out.
yeah. That's when she took me seriously, and then she started changing up a bit. But sometimes parents do not change. Some people don't change. And they'll try to push their own beliefs onto you. And
Play the gay way.
yeah. So, me, if my child did, I'd be like, cool.
What it's called?
You know. But
Pray the gay way.
No, I mean, essentially that's what the church
Would y'all
does,
say it's
right?
in speaking with this scenario, would y'all say it's easier when, you know, like in your case, like, you know, you're a female, you're coming out, and
It's
you're
easier.
gay. It's easier.
Unfortunately.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
because of
I
how
would agree.
society is,
Exactly.
it is easier. 100%. People are like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because
what-
if you look at it, like everybody is always behind, girl on girl action. But
Yeah.
as soon as you flip the switch, guy on guy.
Yeah, if it's a
guy-
guy.
But it's girl
Oh,
on girl
that's-
without
here's
the
the thing,
idea,
like,
though, that
I-
it's lesbian, whatever girl on girl it is, right? Because there's a difference. Like, guys will talk about, oh, that's so exciting. But then the minute that we turn the conversation around and say, well, that's a lesbian relationship,
They don't
They're
take
like,
it serious
whoa.
either.
right? They're like,
Yeah, it's
wait,
really
wait.
weird.
Yeah,
It's
now
really
they have an
weird.
issue with it. So there's like this weird in society. There's this weird line between sexual fantasy,
Yes.
and it being
And
put into
legitimate
a
relationship.
right?
Yeah.
I think
relationship
what
context.
sucks is back to just the main scope of, I think we're all in agreement, like, you wouldn't push your child to not be who they are. The sad thing is that when you have parents that have, and this is speaking directly to most dads, when they have a son that is, you know, showing signs that they're going to be gay, they actually do try and push down on them, like, no, you're not going to, and they do it physically too. Like, I had friends in high school and in college, and the stories that they would tell me, man, were like, shit, like, fuck,
That's bad.
some graphic stuff, like getting beat, freaking sending them to Scared Straight type program, like, and letting it go, you know, potentially that far. Like, okay, like, you gonna send your son to get raped in jail? Like, that's just fucked up. Like, come on now. But people go out there and go to the extreme to try and correct, in quotes, you know, in quotes, the sexual orientation of their children. That's just. It's just
And I
deviant,
think that's so
man.
dangerous because nowadays there's so much information out there, and kids that can't go to their parent or to a trusted someone to help them understand themselves, because they are different from what society says they should be. And so they go out and they seek all this information online, and that information is flooded with what isn't real, really knowledgeable information, or can steer them away into trying to find themselves in someone else's definition, when in reality it should just be, you are who you are. I love you for who you are, and as you grow and become more comfortable with who you are and how you want to express yourself, we're going to do this together. And parents inadvertently trying to quote unquote save their children push them into the hands and into the corner of something that is really unhealthy for them. That could be potentially unhealthy for them. So for me, it's, if one of my daughters said to me, Mom, I think I'm this. Mom, I think I might be that. Mom, I don't identify with any. Because, there's such an array of terms now to describe people's expression of who they are. Then I need to be with them in that moment and what they're experiencing in that moment, and walk and work through with them in that moment and trying to understand. And you're, however old you are, trying to figure yourself out. I mean, God.
Yeah, so my younger brother is actually gay, and I guess we kind of always knew, like that's what they say a lot, like, oh yeah, we know, but he had the hardest time, like the amount of mental stress that he put himself through because he was scared my mom would
and that fear is so real.
My mama was like, Bobby, we know, like we all know.
We don't. We still know.
But it's so unfortunate. The fear is real,
Yeah,
and it's
and
not.
I don't think a child, because essentially, he was 13 when he told Mom, like, I like this boy at school, and she's like, I don't think that stress, just the mental aspect of it, take all that other stuff you were talking about out of the scenario, that mental stress would be enough to, like, ruin you, honestly, and then make you think that you're doing something wrong because you feel a certain way. You can't help the way you feel, So I don't think a child should ever have to go through that.
I think what sucks is that so many people that have this situation happen to them with their kids, and this is not what society wants. What the fuck? Like, how sheltered are you? Like,
right now.
It sounds more like you thinking about your immediate community, and your immediate family, instead of knowing what actual society is. Like, society is pretty fucking big, so you actually venture out and see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, Dad, like. Honestly, if it was me, I'd be like, Dad, 3/4 of your whole company is gay. Like, that's your society. What the fuck?
It's crazy because, like, you see somebody, right? Like, okay, like, I don't go on you with every single one of your dates. So why the fuck should it matter if you're dating a guy? If you're bringing a guy to the bedroom, or you're bringing a female to the bedroom, I don't give a fuck what you're doing.
No, but I think for a lot of these topics, like, why it's always the father that has the worst reaction is because they also look at it as, so for their sons, like, if you're their only son, like, the fathers look at it as, oh, you're my legacy, like, what's going to happen after you if you're gay. So, like, I'm not condoning anything, I'm just saying this
like,
is
you mean like carrying the last name?
Yeah, carrying the last name. That's a lot of pride for a lot of males. But then like, it's just how it is, like, for fathers. Like, you have a daughter. If your daughter comes up to you like, Dad, I like girls, then you, like, at the same way, you're still looking at how can I get this last name to continue. So that's some of the reactions where some fathers have.
I think there's also the religion.
I was about to say
religion
that.
is a
that's the biggest
religious
one.
belief has a huge drive.
Keep in mind, it's like you're talking about. I really don't want to get into that, but like.
But it is
talk
a
about
big
religion,
driver, right? It is a big driver.
Religion is the worst
one.
one.
Yeah, it's so many different aspects to religion that make it so out of whack nowadays. Like, because it's practiced the way it is practiced, like there's so many things that go on in the church, and depending upon what church you go to, that being gay and going to church is probably one of the last things that are the biggest problem in the church, like.
So what's funny is they'll say, "Oh, you can come to church because we're this and we're accepting," but they have cognitive dissonance between what their belief is and how their behavior is. Like, there's this separation of, like, yes, come to church, but don't sit next to me because I don't want you to influence
wait a
my
minute,
children.
Jesus was sitting next to hookers and
and
prostitutes.
I almost don't blame people who are so engulfed in their religious belief that they can't get past it because it's their rooted belief and it's usually generational belief.
For me, that was definitely the hardest because I grew up in a Catholic home. So I had my own mental stress of how do I tell my parents who we all go to church every Sunday, and my grandma's so like all about, oh, well, this is a sin, this is a sin. So it's almost like, you know, I'm like, how do I go to church? I like going to church, but I like doing this one thing too that I'm not gonna give up on. Right. And it's like, how am I gonna keep asking for forgiveness for something that I'm gonna continue doing? So that was one of my biggest struggles.
But isn't it interesting though that premarital sex is also against the church, but we seem to take more acceptance of that than we do.
With the hoodie on.
Kid, wait.
Kid in the hood looking like Grim Reaper right now.
What are you talking about?
He doing that. He doing that because on the way to the radio.
Hey, that is funny.
He's shouting him
out.
No, don't do that.
He was like, oh, because my religion, you know.
Right.
Really, bro?
Right. We're constantly struggling with this ideology of what it should be because of how we were raised and taught and what we believe, and then, you know, what we're confronting in our real daily life and living. And there's definitely this separation of the two. I was also raised in a Catholic church, and my mother is very devout Catholic, and we'll watch TV and we'll watch these shows, and
I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
And so, you know, my mom will say, like, I don't have a problem with you know, homosexuality, but but then we were watching a novela, and she's like, she's going bonkers watching. Sorry, mama. But
I'm sorry.
So it's, you know, and I think though it's a lot of patience and a lot of tolerance, and I think kids my daughter's age are really at the frontier. We were just having this conversation at the frontier and pioneering what our you know, our generation and older have fought and died for, which is just get to know me as a human being. Don't judge me. Just get to know me as a human being, and you'll know that if I love someone, regardless of who they are, and if I identify as this or that it the label doesn't make me right as a human being. So.
All right, my question. So, based off all of this, like, I know some parents would like to go up to the kids and like ask them about, like, what is your sexuality? Like, some parents do that.
But why? Yeah. Why do we need to do that? Nobody asked me if I was going to be heterosexual and like.
So I think my question is going to be, wait, if for a parent to do that, what is the appropriate age to doing that?
You don't do that.
You don't have to. It's none of your business.
I don't know.
Your child will I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead. No,
your child will begin to express their preference, and what the challenge is, are you willing to accept whatever comes out of their mouth?
But at the same time, I think you yourself as a parent should be educated on what that means.
Yes,
you know, what it means for your son or your daughter to be gay. So not just with, you know, not just talking about, like, you know, sex and things like that, but be educated on how it, you know, at what point in, you know, the world, you know, because 10 years ago you couldn't get married.
Exactly.
Now you can. So educate yourself and then educate your children about it.
Variable.
Exactly.
Ready for it?
Here we go. Go ahead.
So that was for the kids, right? That's if you got kids. So we're gonna kick it up a notch.
Good transition, right?
We're gonna kick it up a notch.
Go ahead.
So this is actually, you know what? I want you to bring it up because you presented it to me first.
Okay, I'm gonna point the camera at you. Go ahead.
Oh dear Lord, which one did I? We talked about so
Turning
many.
gay.
Yeah.
Oh no, you brought that up. If you're in a couple, if you're in a relationship and
you brought that one up.
I did.
Go ahead.
And your partner comes out and says, "Okay, oh yes, that's right." That's right. Because it came out of another conversation.
She's like, that was the time when I was getting the burger and the fries.
I was starving.
Right.
Best burger place ever. So the question, the conversation Sly and I were having was, if your partner, you're in a relationship with your partner, and your partner says to you that they have a sexual preference for the same gender, but they love you, they want to stay married with you, what do you do at that point? Do you accept them for who they are, or do you or do you terminate the relationship? Like, are you non-accepting of their sexual preference?
Well,
and let me tell you. So I'm gonna even go expand this just one more inch, right? Let me tell you how that could, because people will be like, wait a minute, but if we're married,
sexual preference. Last time you told me if they wanted to go and become a man, like
right, or transgender, transsexual, whatever.
Those are like
so I'm gonna give you. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the scenario.
You said another.
Let's start with the first one
Yeah.
first.
Okay, right, because so if so let's say you and I are married, right? And
That's gay.
Yeah.
that is so gay. And she's
We be cute
beautiful, so
together.
I'd
We
be
be
super
cute
lovely.
Been waiting to say that all night.
And so now Abishola says to me, Rosemary, I love you, but I feel like I'm a man, and inside, like I feel like I am masculine, and I want to be transgender. That I want to identify with me as a man, but I love you, and I want us to be together, but I want my name to be Alexander now, and I want to wear suits and not dresses, right? That's just the scenario. Do I accept her and love her and be with this, or do
externally changing? You ain't going no internally.
Y'all are going
you guys
so
too detailed. Let's just stay above the surface here. Let's just stay above the
crazy.
surface. So I gave you the visual. I gave you the example. Do you stay in the relationship with your partner?
So first, all right. So your partner comes out and tells you that they want to be, like, if my wife comes out and tells me she wants to be a man.
Right, but she still loves
you.
She
still
still wants to be with you.
So personally, like, let me
I don't even know
get
what
it
I
out before you cut me off in the middle.
that.
I know you.
My bad.
I'm saying I know you. As I talk, you gonna try to cut me
Anyway,
off.
Go ahead.
No, but no.
We're
So
all waiting.
I personally would, like, not terminate the relationship, but I would, like, okay, I will support you, but I will not continue the marriage, because with the marriage you cannot go all the way out to, like, achieve complete happiness.
Wait, what? Rewind. You're going too fast.
I think I got what he's saying. It's kind of the
If
same
he's
way.
not gonna be happy, you're not gonna be happy.
No.
Well, when you
because-
look at it, like, that's not the person you fell in love
Yes.
with.
Yes.
It's you fell in love with somebody else, regardless of what they do with their outside or inside appearance. You know, that's not the same person I fell in love with. Would I be supportive of them during their transition, whatever that might entail? Yes, but as far as a relationship goes, no, because that is not the person I fell in love with.
People chime in. Please send in your comments, because this is gonna go heated. I can
Okay.
feel it.
Yeah, this is crazy because you said two big things. You said, what if they come out saying they like the same gender, and then you also said, what if they want to they identify with.
Or okay, so I gave you two. So let's just stick to one. Let's say that they identify with a different gender, right? So you and I, we're in a relationship.
Yeah, and then
you
suddenly I
identify
identify as a man.
right? Right. Okay, I will. Like,
Never.
whichever. It doesn't matter. It's an example.
No, you too.
Right.
Don't do it.
Now
Don't
you
yours.
share with me what you identify as. Do I stay with you in this relationship? And you are loving to me, you want to stay with me, you want to continue the relationship, but you're asking that your gender be identified as how you've always felt.
So, this is crazy. So, in my last relationship, when we first started dating, the girl was very girly. Not very girly, but tomboyish, kind of like me. And that's what I fell in love with at the time. And then maybe like 2 months before we got married, she started wearing men's clothes. So like all the way down to like the underwear. And I had a really hard time with this because I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. Like the person I fell in love with was like a more feminine girl. But because to her, it wasn't like an identity thing. It was more like, I mean, she identified better with those clothes, but it wasn't like I identify as a man type thing. I was okay with it because clothes don't, doesn't define her. And when she's out of those clothes, she's still her, you know. But I think if it had gone to the extent of like a gender change, like I feel like I am a man, like that, I would say what Austin said.
Because now that's a whole different person.
Yeah, you're trying to be a whole different person. So it's tough because if you really love the person, it's like, wow, like I really have to.
Yeah,
you have to really cross the line.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I got a question.
absolutely
So
heartbreaking.
you're saying they're identifying themselves as, So in my case, my wife wants to identify as a man. Is she going
through the process.
No, let's not even go that deep. Let's just say that she reveals to you that she identifies, that her gender fluidity is more leaning toward man, right? More masculine than female. That she feels that she is.
I can be with another man.
Internally,
yeah.
So and for me, here's the challenge with
no.
this, right? And similar to what Castle and Abituela said, which is that you're gonna go through a process of mourning because you're losing the person that you've shaped your entire life with, and that person the person they presented you to be or them to be, right? But then also, it means you're having to learn this person as who they truly are. And whether or not that's the person you fall in love with, and whether or not you can be with someone, that is not whom they had portrayed themselves to be.
My only combat for that is when we talk about who we truly are. It's like, I mean, why should it take, if I, for the sake of the scenario, if I've been with a person, if I've been with my wife for 5 years, and then this conversation is just now coming up. Is that truly who you are?
That's what I was going to go.
It can take that long.
5 years that we've been married.
It can take very long. That is the same thing as coming out while you're in a relationship, in the marriage. Like, when I was married, I hadn't even, slept with a dude, so I didn't even know. I knew I liked men, but I hadn't confirmed it until, later on. And it's like, how do I, that was a game changer. That was a complete game changer because I was no longer the girl that she had met. So... And I've seen marriages where the girl comes out as, oh, I like women too. And it's like all these years they've been married and they never said anything.
And sometimes some of that is because it's been so suppressed in that the fear of you even accepting yourself, right? And who you really truly are, because you've been conditioned to believe one way because the fear of letting your partner know, and this person that you love, you don't want to lose them. And so you continue to maintain this facade just because everybody else around you expects it. And then sometimes people go through this huge epiphany of self-discovery in the sense that I need to be true to who I am because I'm burying myself in this fallacy of who I am, and at the expense of the possibility of losing everything around me. It's huge. That's such a huge game changer, life changer, everything changer. And let's say you have children. That's even, and these, you hear and read about these types of relationships happening all the time, and changes in relationships happening all the time.
Question: If your let's just talk about sexual orientation. If your significant other does come out to you and say, "I like the same sex, the same gender," would you stay with?
Sorry, it's apple tea, people, not a beer.
I know. I was
had a cup of cold one. This shit getting heated.
So would you stay with them? So if, for example, if you were married to a girl and you've been together for years and she says, I like women, would you stay?
Women as well, or women in place of men? Because there's no...
So both. Give me your answer for both.
All right,
both
so
scenarios.
if it's, marriage, right? Marriage or dating. All right, so...
marriage, because you're
long-term relationship, marriage,
so
committal.
We'll say, we'll go with the first one where she likes as well. So she's bisexual, all right? So first I would, I'd present her with the, well, is this going to have any effect on our relationship? Okay. Are you going to be seeking out other people? Is it going to become an issue for you to where, you start taking interest in somebody else and it could ruin what we have, right? So that obviously would be the first thing. And then, hopefully she's honest. And you guys kind of, have to figure that out yourself, whether that ends up in y'all breaking apart. Because personally, if she was like, I could foresee it being an issue down the road, hanging out with my girlfriends or doing whatever, So that's where you have the talk over if you're going to, get a divorce or whatever else. Now, let's say she liked in place of you, all right? So I think... it goes along with the heartbreak that we talked about with the other scenario. It's going to suck. Ultimately, it's that person telling you, not that they don't love you, because they might, they might still love you for who you are, but the fact that there's,
You can't give them that entire complete
you
happiness.
can't satisfy...
after knowing that, you can't satisfy
So you'd sound a little defeated, and, everybody reacts to situations differently. Some people would get very angry about the fact. Some people would completely break down inside and cry. I'd probably be that person.
Me too. Me too.
But
honestly.
At the end of the day, you know, it's not going to work out between the two of you. And that's when you also got to start asking questions like, what makes you sure? You know, I like not messing around. Like, are you sure? Is that something like you genuinely feel? Because if it is, you know, it's gonna suck. But there's no place for you in that relationship.
I think that's the most important thing. That is, if you're presented with that and you're married. For me, honestly, it's like, well, it's either you want to be married to me or you don't. If you don't, because that's really the end. That's the end goal. Like, if it's, you know, along with, you know, men, then all right. So are you saying you want to continue this? Because I'm not going to want to share you regardless.
Right.
So
whether it's another woman or another man.
Yeah.
So
Right. That could apply for
that's
both.
the main thing for me.
Yeah,
That's
gotta be hard.
It's tough. I've seen it
Because
happen.
Either way, there's going to be heartbreak.
all over
Not
the
just for the person that's, you know, being told this, but
The person telling it.
Yeah,
And they're losing the person that they love.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they, you know, can't be with them because their sexual
they feel it.
orientation.
And
It's
at the same time, though, that's kind of what gets people in that mindset that they're afraid to tell people because they're afraid. But honestly, you know, the best, it's gonna suck. It's gonna, you know, either way you dish out, it's gonna suck. So you're gonna have to figure out, you know, how to say something about it. Because again, that emotional stress eats at a child, but it very well eat up a whole
And I have a strong belief where, like, no matter what, you're gonna have to come out and say it, because, like, if you just hold on to it, like,
it's gonna get discovered eventually.
It's gonna get discovered because you're gonna start acting different, and then you're gonna start having like small things that just kind of seems out of norm. And so your significant partner, if they are actually attentive, they will catch that.
Yeah, and it'll cause bigger problems.
Yeah, that'll cause.
Just imagine, right, that you're carrying this deep down secret about who you are, and you've been living with it for whatever 25, 30 years, and you can't express it for fear of whatever. That has to eat you.
Yeah.
That has to eat you.
And then it'll eat at the other person as well when
Yes.
they're told, like, well, how long have you been feeling this way? And then they're going to feel lied and cheated.
Yeah.
Oh,
you've been feeling like this our entire marriage.
I mean, all those
So either way,
questions.
between both of them, it's going to, you know.
It's going to destroy some people.
Both of them.
And you know that these topics, every time I see something in just social platforms like television shows, movies, and things like that, it makes me think like, wow, this topic is big enough in society that it has bubbled up into mainstream, right?
Yeah.
And you see these stories all the time on television. 911 had a scenario like that.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, and you read my mind. I was thinking about that.
That was crazy.
And that's a huge, I mean, talk about the coming out to the entire world.
That's
Right.
a 3 gold medal Olympic athlete,
yeah.
Essentially a millionaire, and you struggle because you don't know the right way to say it. And then, you know, she later embraced it. Good for her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you kind of got it, like...
And then coming out to a
in my
powerhouse
sense,
family.
yeah, in my... well, from the way I looked at that specific scenario, it really seemed like the manner in which she came out was more so for publicity. And don't get me wrong, it very well might not have been, but it just, you know, it really, the way they played it off, it really seemed like, okay, you might feel a certain way, and I don't think you had to blow it up to that level, but you did, and here we are, and now you're the woman of the year now, right? So,
Yeah.
like,
that was crazy.
yeah,
That was
pretty
a
crazy.
super shift in our culture
Yeah.
when that
Oh, yeah.
happened.
That was super
Huge-
controversial.
Huge shift when Woman of the Year was transsexual.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, talk about changing time, right? That would never have happened 20 years ago.
Just 10 years ago.
Hey,
Or 10 years
for
ago,
everybody
yeah,
listening
exactly.
out there, if y'all got comments or you know you have
Got topics.
I'm pretty
topics,
dead
just
tonight, honestly.
Yeah.
a little bit. Got
The
people chiming in a
connection
little
tonight I'm
bit.
having
Yeah,
issues with.
I'm having, but
Are you having
I've had
issues?
some
Yeah,
activity
I
on
keep
here.
having connection issues. It keeps cutting in and out, but
It's changing the weather.
So the thing about Caitlyn Jenner is like you build this whole life as a man and a family
big life,
and
yeah.
everything, like a whole reality show, and it's like at the time he kept that lie, or not lie, but that truth about himself at the time to himself, and created this whole family and everything they have together to then be like, actually,
And look what Kris Jenner did in response. She was very supportive, but at the end of the day, she was like, this is not something I myself can take part in.
Right.
You're going to have to do this on your own.
Like, in a way, that sucks for Kris. Because it's like,
for the whole family, honestly.
Yeah, because it's like
because
you with this person for so many years.
One, you losing your father, then you also losing your husband. And that's like for some people.
As you know them, right? You're losing
them.
Yeah,
you're losing them
as
you know them. You're not losing them because they're still there.
Right.
But like as a wife, you can't. You're always gonna look at like. You're always gonna look over and just like.
I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine being married to somebody for so many years and have a family together, and then suddenly them be like, actually, I want to be the opposite gender.
I'm going to be honest. I think the manner in which they did it really probably made it a lot easier for her than somebody that, isn't in the spotlight and doesn't have a lot of money.
Though, it makes me wonder, though, Castle, because I don't know of any other family that has had that kind of publicity for that kind of subject. And when you're the first of something, everybody is going to look at you as the model of this is how I respond to this. And so I can't imagine being the wife in that situation and having to contain myself for the public image.
Saw the episodes
no.
So I don't watch the show by any means.
Keeping Up with Kardashians.
Yeah, but you'll catch clips on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and just I think there was a Facebook video where like it did like the first couple episodes right before she came out, and you could see like Caitlyn, then Bruce, like you could see it. It looked like it was eating her alive.
Yeah,
and
sure.
then a couple episodes later, or I'm not really sure how they do the show, but I guess later down the road, you see Kris and like it destroyed her on live TV.
Yeah.
And I won't say live TV, but like for the whole world to see, and that's something like I'm not a fan of that whole family and the whole situation in general, and not that I'm against it, but the way in which they took that situation and made it as big as they did, kind of didn't agree with it 100%. But like I can't imagine how that.
Yeah,
how
no,
that
that's
I ate it both of them,
heartbreaking.
honestly.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
I feel like you can compare it, but it's not comparable. Like this scenario, as in, like, so this is basically the same thing as if you're in a marriage and you found out that your spouse is cheating. Like it's somewhat similar, but it's not comparable at all because in a cheating scenario, like you can bounce back, but in this scenario, it's kind of like.
Your whole life has changed.
Yeah, your entire life is
as
changed.
You know, it has changed.
Because your whole life has changed because you hear that news, and even if so and so doesn't decide to go through with all the things that they want,
the entire process.
It's the fact that that they're not who they want to be right there, and that's sad.
But I think the biggest message that I think that family put out was that a family can survive.
And they still are.
Yes.
Still
and they're surviving really, yeah. So if there's anybody out there listening and they are in that state of questioning, definitely don't do it by yourself, I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody should come out in this process by themselves.
Do it sooner rather than later because the longer you wait, the more potential problems it could build up.
Definitely find somebody you trust. It doesn't have to be family. It could be literally anybody, somebody you feel comfortable with, and just let it out. Even just letting it out to one person, one person, or to even a stranger.
That's
can be so relieving.
Like somebody that you can talk to that you.
Or
no damn well you're not gonna see
got these guys asking to change on like
hey, just sit down and talk to them.
Talking to a professional just to center and ground yourself first before this is a professional who has nothing to do with your personal life, doesn't go home with you, doesn't live in your community,
exactly. And they'll probably just look at
someone
you
that
like,
does not affect you.
Wonderful, bro.
And then if you do decide to bring this process to your family, to have somebody there to support them as well is going to be really important because that's the big shift.
Boom. Just thought of this. Ooh. So we were talking about loyalty, right?
Yes.
What if, all right, what if...
Is this a variable?
Yes, it's like a double variable.
Ooh,
it's a
ding,
double
ding.
variable. So well, you're married, obviously, and
you are.
No, I'm not.
No.
Girl, I'm divorced.
In this scenario.
To the States. No,
I got divorced in February. Yeah.
Hey, February was not a good month.
Or maybe.
It was good.
I know you look at it.
For me, yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyways, so you don't tell you know.
Wow.
We'll say
Your partner.
The wife says, "Hey, I want to do this. All right, I want to be a man.
Okay.
Do you know? But I don't want you to tell my parents. I don't want you to tell your parents."
Loyalty.
Oh, fuck.
The
Yeah.
loyalty
What the
question.
Oh, you're like,
That was good.
she don't want to tell my parents.
No, she says, "I don't want you to tell
Anyone.
Anybody.
In fact, I don't want you." So
How do you?
Honestly, if it's me,
How the fuck you vent to somebody about that shit? Like,
right?
fuck.
Fucking.
I got counseling. I
Yeah.
gotta tell somebody.
So we laugh, but in all seriousness,
Yeah,
like,
like-
how would you handle that?
I think honestly, I think for me, if it's in the sense of I know the relationship isn't gonna work any further, then still in support of that person, because I mean, regardless, like I love you for the time being that I did love you, but obviously it's not gonna work. We're not gonna
And I'm not
continue
gonna-
to go
yeah.
the same way. But it's like, all right, cool, I'll support you, but keep in mind you're gonna have to help me with whatever lie, because when they find out we're no
it's
longer
like,
together.
yeah,
Well, why didn't
your
it
mom
work?
asked why you got
Oh,
divorced?
I know.
well, like I'm not gonna say I
Desirable
cheated.
differences.
Like,
Yeah,
But
hey,
you
that's
know,
how you get your ass beat.
nowadays,
What you mean?
secrets can't be kept. With something like that big nowadays,
that's
somebody's
a
gonna
really big
tweet
one.
it, text it,
Yeah, but
IG
you know,
it.
The
Like,
scenario
somebody's
was
gonna-
also
and
given
be
in
like,
a perfect
so
world.
that
Yeah.
means you're gonna pay for all my my psychic treatment that I'm gonna need in the next few months. Like, 'cause you're gonna have to let me go
That's
talk
big.
to somebody.
No, that
Like,
really is
especially-
big,
to
especially
hide it from
Besties
both.
are off the
both-
table. Like besties
both
are allowed
parents-
to know
yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
both
like my
parents,
best
both
friends are
sets of
definitely
parents,
gonna know
that's,
everything.
that's really
Nah, because some best friends, some besties go straight to your parents. Like shit. What the fuck? I just told you not to tell them.
Well
Don't worry,
then,
we'll tell mom.
where's the loyalty
Go
at?
ahead, tell
No
my mama.
loyalty.
Where's the
Y'all
fucking
can tell
loyalty
my
at?
mama.
I
She
know
not
my
gonna say
best friends.
nothing. She
I
like,
can
whatever.
trust in them 100%.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
You
I
say you're
do
not
too.
inviting your mom to the wedding, right?
She not invited.
Oh,
Pick
she-
your
she
best
friend
literally
invited.
said that last night.
My mama ain't invited.
All right.
Oh wait,
Well,
hold on,
mom's
because
first name
you
is
realize
Roxanne.
this
Mama,
is permanent.
you not invited to the wedding. Even
You notice
even
his
though
voice
there's no
went like
wedding
3
planned.
octaves down,
I just, wait,
right?
Yeah, dude.
I just want to say,
Mama.
You
You
not
know
invited.
you're not invited,
no,
Mom.
I had to clear it up.
It's-
There's no wedding being planned right now. But I'm just saying, you're not invited.
Damn.
All right, mom. You heard
Holy
it.
crap.
You
Oh
heard
my
it,
God, I
Mom.
can't
Who
even.
the fuck you
You-
think you are?
that choncolate's
about
gonna
to
come
get
from all the way from the
It ain't,
stage.
it ain't even gonna be a chocolate. It's gonna be a belt wrapped around your neck at night. Just pull you off the bed.
This
Just
is for Roxanne.
you gonna get that hit in the switch with it right in the shower, right when you take the
My
shower.
mama would show up with a fucking, like a bottle of tequila and be like, "The fuck you ain't gonna invite me for?" I'm here to turn this bitch on.
Hey, now, look, at my wedding, I feel like I'm gonna have wedding crashers. These two right here.
Yeah,
Like,
be there.
I just.
I'm gonna be up in the mother.
We don't have to be invited. I'm gonna be there.
You gotta find
They
him.
made that really
Wedding
clear.
crashers for a reason. Gotta have it.
Yo, I'm having
You could
some
be
kids.
nice and
Look,
invite
I'm-
me
I'm-
and let me go through
look,
the door
when-
peacefully.
When you
Crash
see
through
us
the
in the
fucking
back,
ceiling.
when you see us in the back with our jackets on,
I'm having security there. What you mean?
fuck about no security.
That's what
Shoot
I
on
said.
sight.
No, it's
We
called
coming through the
pay.
ceiling.
Shoot on sight. Here's
God.
these pictures. Shoot on sight.
Hey man, you planning this huge wedding
So
that you're gonna need
let's-
security for.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What if you have guests on your wedding guest list that your bride doesn't want?
This is like the
Yeah, like
Talked
last
about
week.
it last
Damn,
week.
No, that
that's
was
crazy.
about the
That was-
Marine.
that was
Yeah.
I'm
more-
talking
yeah,
about
that was
No,
more
like,
all right,
tighter.
so
yeah,
So
like
essentially,
that.
like,
She
you
just
have-
does not want. She does not
She-
like your wedding crasher friends.
so those friends that no, so you have those friends that like,
if she want to walk away in that dress with no stain on it, she better shut the fuck up.
Terrible.
so essentially like your wife or your future wife to be knows that you have those friends that are just like your shitty friends. Like they're great friends, but like when y'all get
Shitty
together,
friends that are
like,
great.
She was like, tell your friends to leave. Like, we ain't
Wow.
friends. We're not his friends. We his family. It's
no,
different.
but like they know, like your wife knows that if y'all get together, it will be mayhem. Like, what do you do for that family?
See, he gonna want us for the bachelor.
You
party.
fucking, you go to sleep.
No, y'all not
and
invited
you wake
to the
up in the
bachelor party.
morning and you
Either.
hope that it's over. That's all you really can do.
Hey, look.
Like, I mean, like, are your friends bad influences to you? Is that what this
Not
is?
bad. Not
Yeah,
bad, not such much as a bad influence, but like when y'all
Y'all
get
just
together,
rowdy? Like-
yeah, just when y'all get together, it's just like, what the fuck? It's like freshman year of college, like what y'all going crazy. Like for what?
So they're bad influences.
Not a bad influence.
Because
Like.
if you're engaged, you're about to get married, and you got friends that are bad influences to you,
Yeah.
are they really?
I'm not a great
friends?
one by
No,
any means.
it's not. It's not like they're
Are
tempting
you
you to do.
alive? Are you? That was them.
No,
Are you
it's
alive?
We were taking care of it.
That was being a great influence.
Yeah. So for the obviously y'all can't
we
see
took
'cause we're on
pictures
radio.
afterwards, but-
So Kate is like laying on the bar
Oh, yeah.
counter, and DJ takes a piece of steak. What was that? Like some piece of meat.
Hey, yeah,
And
he gave me
Kate
jerk
opens
chicken.
his-
He gave me
lifts
jerk
up his
chicken.
head,
I'm not
opens his
him.
mouth,
He get-
feeds him. He's like chew. Slides like chew, and he chews and puts his head back down. He's like, I gotta take care of him. I'm like, oh my god, that is diehard friendship right there.
Wow.
Hey, look.
That is like
Hey,
friendship
last
and be right
night
there.
I was tired, man.
That was
Hey, that
awesome.
jerk chicken got me through the night though.
Jerk-
I was
he
like,
remembers
I was
his jerk
like,
chicken.
I was like, ooh, that was. I'm
dying
like,
laughing.
I was like, what is it? Oh, it's jerk chicken.
Hey, that's not only a good friend. That's
he
not
asked
only a
after
good
the
friend. That's a
fact.
good bartender right there.
So we like for his birthday, we killed him. But
I
then
saw.
we resurrected him.
No, we resurrected him. You know, he got the last little spillage
He
out of
sprayed the fuck out of Lawson's though.
Oh dear
The only
God.
thing
Okay.
I was able to do was, keep him from trying to fight dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my
Hey,
god.
Hey,
y'all know
that's
what?
kind of like
A wall
interest
did.
kind of thing.
A wall stopped me.
Look, to answer your question though,
Thank you for bringing it back.
to answer that question, I think when it comes to wedding celebration, I think you're celebrating each other, and I think first of all, if your friends,
everybody thinks it's always about the female.
That's true.
yeah, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
But that's what I'm trying to get at. If your friends are not bad influences to you, they're just rowdy, and your girl just really doesn't fuck with them, for lack of a better word. I think for the celebration, obviously, I think you should talk to your friends and be like, y'all need to get it together for this event. But I think that they should completely be allowed to attend because they are your side of. Okay, so then why are you asking the question in the first place?
Oh, yes,
If
me.
they-
I didn't bring up the question. I didn't bring up the question.
Who did? Was it him?
No.
I did.
You did.
Look, we
My
either
bad.
come to the wedding or we're coming to the birth of the first baby.
Ooh, come to
Take
the
your
wedding.
Might as well have us
Come
at
to the
'cause
wedding.
they
Come
don't
to
marriage
both.
yet.
Y'all not invited to nothing.
We're gonna bring them big old hedge
Nothing.
clippers. All right, let me cut the umbilical cord.
Oh,
No.
man.
So there was one more topic that we had to talk about, right? Speaking of making babies and stuff.
Wow. Who's making babies?
Me?
No, not you.
No, not me.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
me.
babies.
Not me.
No, meds and the medical.
I can talk good on this.
Yes. So, got a question from Florida. The question was,
Florida.
how do I help in this case, it was a husband. So, husband's on medication for blood pressure pills. And one of the side effects for blood pressure pills is sexual dysfunction. Like there's just no either sexual
He can't get
desire
aroused.
or can't get aroused or has an arousal but can't sustain the arousal. And apparently it's a very common thing in blood pressure medication and other medications. However, if he doesn't take it, he risks killing his kidneys and ending up on dialysis. So,
There's no other way to
right,
help with the blood pressure.
so,
exercise,
and actually, you
Does
know
sex
what?
not
So
help with
No.
after that question,
Man,
that's the problem. Because
No, in this, I think like
So-
the guy is going back in eternal. He's like, the reason why he doesn't want to take blood pressure medication is because he feels like he has he has a value to his significant other, whereas like these are things I'm supposed to contribute to as a man. Like for my wife, for my girlfriend, like this is where I'm supposed to contribute. And when I take this, I can't. So he's thinking at the back of his head, like, if I cannot offer this to her, then why should I maintain this relationship? Because
well,
that's
I'm not saying that they're going to break up.
No, I'm not.
No, I don't
No.
think you let her finish.
No. So the question.
You really didn't finish.
Story of
You
my
really didn't let her
life.
finish.
So,
She had the story of her life.
so the question is, how do I let him know that it's okay for him to stay on this medication, that there's other ways for us to, maintain that part of our relationship kindled, because she's afraid that he is going to not take the medication behind her back.
Can you just not take Viagra?
And
So you can't just pop one and then pop the other.
I didn't get to that many
Matrix.
questions with this
All the
comment.
variables.
It was just those are
Continue,
all
continue,
variables.
It's not a matrix
But-
rule, right? You can only choose one pill you can take.
But, you know, apparently, so the question came from a nurse who sees this often in the clinic, where the guy is just like, nope, it doesn't make me feel manly, I can't do this, and they get off the medication. So how can a spouse support their husbands in just keeping that part of their masculinity
Go
intact?
to the doctor and demand a recall on the damn pills. Like, what the hell?
And she told me that this is like a side effect that's really high, and it's in these kinds of medications, like, you know, life-sustaining medications, high blood pressure pills, and
find me a kidney.
To be honest, I think a lot of things that go wrong with the body as you get older, you cannot necessarily fix just with a pill. I think if you go through, and this is just from studies, if you go through with proper diet and proper exercise, you can
right, but
a
in
lot
the
of
meantime,
things.
right, the question is, he's not able to perform sometimes, and it's affecting, it's causing depression, it's, you know, so how can she support him? What would you want to hear if it was you and your wife? Like, what would you want to hear from her?
Personally, like, there's nothing that my wife or significant other could say.
You have to look at, if the pills aren't working, you got to look at other avenues.
Because even the guys, they don't even want to come out to saying, I'm not able to perform.
I mean, it's kind of apparent that he can't perform.
Right. So what's happening is there's no sexual interaction happening at all, so that conversation doesn't even get brought up.
See, yeah, I think
you gotta overcome your pride, man.
I think from your significant other, like, there's nothing that they can really say to want to actually, like, yeah, you can go take your pill. Like, if the guy's like looking internal, like, I cannot make you happy. Like, there's nothing that they can really say or do.
Are there other remedies for to take care of high blood pressure?
I asked because I didn't realize about this whole medicine thing. And at the degree of where the guys that are put on these medications, they need this medication. Either they're at risk for a heart attack or they're at risk for a kidney failure.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's pretty. And I thought, but this happens like older people.
Well, can they get prescribed something for the?
Yeah, and I think that is true. But remember, Viagra also affects blood pressure. So there's like a counter. I was like,
that's
oh
crazy.
Man, that's a really tough one. I'll bring it to the guys.
Yeah,
I thought
there's got to be, when people say there's no other remedies. Oh, I don't believe it.
I don't believe that
there isn't any other. I think that.
I think diet plays a huge part into that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I think that there's so many ways to be intimate with your partner and so many ways to satisfy your partner. I think it's more a mental, like a more psychological impact for the man especially, of not being able to have like a libido, right? To not feel sexual, especially men that identify their masculinity to that.
Based on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that should be a humbling situation for them. Like
stop eating pork chops.
That is not what?
I say he needs to stop eating pork chops. That's what it sounds like. Stop eating pork chops.
And I thought, and I said, okay, so are these like older men? And she's like, no, they're like mid-late 30s and early 40s. Like they're 40, like young. So I'm like, damn, that's like half of our military.
Yeah.
You know, that are on these meds.
That's great. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. But
all that stress.
Smoke that weed,
so like anxiety meds do the same thing.
Right? ADHD medication does similar things too.
Candy don't work either?
Candy can cause the same impact.
What?
Yeah.
Candy can have the same effect.
I've had coworkers talk about ADHD medication like interfering with their performance or like it even becoming painful, like to even do stuff. So I was like, Jesus, like, and it sucks that these medications have these side effects. But I don't know. I think there's other remedies, and I think if your significant other should be understanding, like, what's more important, you know, like us having sex or your life, you know.
Right.
Sex or time.
So I think that's where I would put it. Yeah.
We'll figure out what to do with that time.
Exactly.
Yeah, like we can get creative.
Yeah, you can.
So since we're on the topic, do we have more time?
Wet.
Like he's like over here stripping. No.
Okay.
Take it off.
Nah, he putting it back on. He putting it back on.
Okay.
Hey.
I feel like such a slut.
So since we're talking about libido and whatnot, what kind of things do affect a man's libido?
Alcohol.
Alcohol, yeah, that's true. Alcohol.
in a negative and a positive sense.
All right.
I mean, you know,
All right.
whiskey dick is real. So.
Right. Oh shit.
I've heard it happen.
You asking?
You've heard it.
What affects
I've
a
seen
man's?
I've seen it
Women
happen.
or
I've seen it
women?
happen
Since,
to other.
since I have more, since it's not just me today, thank God.
I know, right? I don't know. For me, sometimes even like my mental state,
I was literally about to say that
my
shit.
mental
Yeah,
state, it
mental
almost
state is
like I be
bad.
sitting there like, hold on, like when was the last time I even had sex, or like when was the last time I was even thinking about any of that? And a lot of it has to do with like either stress, my mental, well, basically overall my mental state. A lot of the times I'm so like deep into.
Go ahead, finish your story.
Oh, my bad. I got distracted. My attention span is whack. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. But basically, my mental state has been a huge one. I think my emotional state as well. That one, like, I've been in a relationship where I don't even want to, I'm not in the mood or I haven't gotten in the mood because I'm so emotionally, like, drained or feeling overwhelmed. But on the other side of the spectrum, positively. So not just negatively, also both things, like my mental state and emotional state. A lot of the times that really does increase how my libido is. So everything, honestly, everything. Your diet
everything.
is
Man, this is
Seriously.
he coming back to the diet.
like
Man,
your diet
diet
is
effects.
greatly, and I didn't even realize
Seriously.
that. And
Can't be waterlogged either.
so, and with that, I would say like yeah, everything, your diet, smoking, alcohol, everything you put in your body. Like, your body is literally your temple. So if you're not taking care, I'm like 100% serious. I know, but it's so
It's
true.
true, though.
It's so
It's
true.
a bunch of chemical reactions in your body. So anything you do to your body, it will have an immediate effect on your body.
So,
What about you?
What about, my own question.
yeah, answer your own question.
Right back at you.
So I think I agree. I agree with Habichuela. Whether it's my
fair.
mental
Same.
state, my mental state. So I think
Same.
stress. When my life gets really, really, really busy, it's like it becomes the
Overwhelming.
further.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, busy, and it doesn't have to be bad or good busy. It's just busy. That becomes like the least in my priorities, which is not good. It's healthy to have high sexual libido or sexual libido, period. But pronounce the P.
Period.
So
Period.
like when I'm really overwhelmed and have a lot to do and I'm like feeling that exhaustion or that fatigue kick in, the last thing I think about is sex.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know, though. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care. I could be really
actually
tired.
I was
though, but
about to say, sometimes
sometimes
fatigue will be like,
let
you
me
know what?
tell
I just need a.
because sometimes
I need a
fatigue
good
will
one
cause
right now.
insomnia, right? And so then that's when sex is really
Which,
good.
it doesn't even
Because
make any
it helps
sense.
you sleep. Yeah.
How does fatigue cause insomnia? But a lot of it,
because your mind is running but your
Yeah.
body's
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
So that's where like sex and having orgasms is really good because it helps
It
you sleep.
releases those endorphins,
Yeah,
yeah.
endorphins and all that good stuff.
sex is
I'm
really
so
good
happy
for you.
she's here.
Yay!
People I can relate with. And then on a
All of y'all looking like
Whatever.
whatever.
they even did the whole
All of
like,
y'all,
face
like all three of y'all looking like
like horses.
this
like,
shit here.
Wow.
And then when like I'm feeling really, also hormonally, like depending on what stage of the month I'm in.
Don't worry, it affects our sexual libido.
But
then,
actually,
too.
you know what? But you guys go through hormonal cycles as well. The difference between y'all and us women.
We know,
Is,
we know.
You don't have a
Okay.
We know.
So
Oh,
you
that's the only
do
difference.
have
Yeah.
hormonal shifts.
Boobs
as
don't
well.
hurt. You don't get cramps.
I know she was really about to go there. Like, all right, like we know. We
Hey,
know.
we can talk about all
good.
this other stuff. We can talk
Right,
about that.
Absolutely.
So if like depending
don't hit
on
us.
you know what stage of the month I'm in and like depending on how creative
Yeah,
my
once y'all
creative
start crying at a
freedom
commercial, we know.
is going.
Hey, them
Shush.
Sarah McLachlan
That's
commercials
stereotypical.
get you,
Whatever. That's a true stereotype.
If I'm feeling really angry,
Yeah.
that's like yeah. And so
But I think the biggest
That's an
thing
angry-
the biggest thing with that is being in tune with your body and being self-aware. Like being aware of, okay, is my libido being, is it being messed with right now?
Right.
What is it? What am I doing or what is going on? And then learning how to like filter all those things out of your life that you cannot control that are perhaps causing all these,
Right.
stressors or stuff like that.
and even
That's
if
the
they are
biggest one.
there, to still take time to to have that satisfaction for your body.
To take care of yourself.
You need that. You need that chemical release in your body. I don't know if it's the same thing for men, but for women, I can speak for myself as a woman.
I have this great thing called the fucking mentality. You know, when you get stressed, when your shit happens, hey, look, like I was talking about stress. Like, yes, it does affect, but like as soon as 1630 hits, I'm like, fuck it. And like that works wonders for me.
Well,
that's
why,
your mantra, right?
But that's why I was saying being self-aware and being
doing those filters, like
like knowing what you're gonna stress about. Like you can't stress over things you can't control. So you just say fuck it and you're good. No, I mean not really, but
and deal with the repercussions later.
No, it depends. Obviously, there's things
it depends on what you're saying. Fuck it too, right?
He's saying he's got a whole mentality to back that up.
But it is. So I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Being in tune with yourself is definitely the biggest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think I didn't realize that until this year. Like I was reading a book. It's called You're a Badass. And if y'all haven't heard of it, y'all should look into it. It's so good, and it's all about being in tune with yourself and being at the right frequencies. Yeah.
I like that. You're a badass.
You're a badass. Yeah.
She's a female writer, and she just got a new book out.
She has another one. Yeah, I forgot what it's called.
What's her name?
Oh shoot, I got you right here. Hold on. But anyways, I honestly was so out of tune with myself overall, with my body and my mind. So I think those things, being in tune with yourself. Sorry, that's another book I was reading.
And it's really important for women that are single and that don't have a partner. That does not mean that you don't take care of yourself sexually. Like you should definitely take care of yourself sexually and make sure that you are taking care of that part of your body.
You go be a hoe, girl.
No, and I don't mean like you need to go out and sleep around, because you don't need men to release that part of your body. So definitely take care of yourself. And
I mean, men take care of themselves when you do the same thing.
Yeah.
Mine is at the gym. As long as I get some gym time in, I'm good.
Well, I was talking about masturbation, but okay.
Gym is at the gym.
Yeah. You threw me off because you said, I go to the gym. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about. He goes to the gym.
Wow, I don't want to go into that bathroom or wherever.
That's
he makes it.
You said it was in the bathroom.
He does it in the sauna.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of masturbation, do y'all remember the first time y'all ever did it? Because some people cannot remember at all.
10.
Like if you 10?
Yep.
Damn.
Shit.
Hey,
that's not that later. Early.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, look, I had sex at 12.
From what? Oh my goodness.
Anyways.
You were like a little baby.
Oh my god. Are you sure that's all you had? Like that's all?
No, it wasn't a blow. It wasn't a blow up though, was it? That don't count.
It wasn't, Easter Bunny rabbit that you got as a gift.
Hey, it's rubbing alcohol.
What?
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't catch it.
Everybody is listening.
Okay.
I know what you
Yeah.
What
no,
do you
I don't
call
know.
two drunk people having sex? Rubbing alcohol.
Wow, that's funny. That's funny. Like you say it like that. If you say it in the wrong context, we're gonna be like,
you just did.
Jesus Christ.
No, it was the right context.
It was for what I said.
Okay, so inside jokes are not allowed on this table because people don't know what's going on.
It wasn't inside. It was right here.
No, I don't know if that's if early age or not, because from when I talk to people, it almost seems like my age was late. But then, I don't know. I think it wasn't late.
I know mine was late. Mine was like 20, 21 when I first had sex.
Oh, no. We was talking about masturbating, but okay.
No, yeah. I thought he was because he said 12 when he first had sex.
He meant 20, 21 when he masturbated. I'm like, well, okay.
No, it was definitely 10. It was definitely 10.
You can't hold Jesus' hands if something else is in it.
Kevin Hart.
Oh, hell no.
So where did you guys learn about sex? Like, I know for me, there was no way in heaven I was talking about sex with my mom. I mean, I think my first conversation with my mom about sex was maybe when I was like 18.
I'm gonna be honest. I had
movies.
I had to figure all that stuff out myself. I didn't have a father figure that took me to do the birds and the bees or whatever that talk is. So and my mama definitely wasn't fucking around with that. So
I was literally just having this conversation with my best friend this morning because I was like, do you remember when you first learned about sex? Because I don't even know when I learned about it. I just know once I was 14, I already knew for sure. I remember, but I had already known about it previously. honestly, I think I learned a lot about it, like from seeing scenes in a movie or something like that, and then.
No, that was juicy.
But my mom would still try to like keep me in a bubble and stuff like that. But
like
I do remember.
I really did it.
But I do remember. Yeah, they did do that.
And you're like this.
I do remember, like she used to have like the Cosmo magazines get delivered at the house, and they were in Spanish. So obviously, I'm like, and they're like, I'm trying to read about this stuff. And I remember there's like a whole page about like masturbation, and I think that's when I first like legitimately learn about it like that. So it really wasn't from my parents.
You can do it by yourself, and you don't need nobody else.
So
Damn, this is fire.
I learned from like my friends in school, and my friends were always older than me, so I learned from them. And I remember them bringing like pads and stuff and sticking them in the bathroom wall.
Oh, heck
like they were just crazy. But I have 2 daughters, and so for me it was really important that they learn about sex from me first before their
That's
friends.
pretty cool.
And so when they were little, I used to buy the American Girl like About Your Body books.
Can't relate.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
so there's
I know those books because
right?
my mom bought me and my sister's books, like All About My Body for Boys and All About My Body for Girls. Those books are very in depth, and they're kind of graphic, so it's not best for the young. Because
it is
because they teach you the right words for the right parts of your body, and so. What I did was, and for anybody out there who has kiddos, I would leave the books laying around. Like I read this somewhere in some magazine, like some article, where leave the books laying around and the kids will pick them up at their own discretion, read through it, and versus feeling
Forcing
the embarrassment, or feeling the embarrassment of having the birds and the bees conversation with a parent. And I remember the girls when they were little, they'd come up and be like, Mom, this is my, and I was like, oh, and how'd you learn that word? And because you said in the book, right? So that was so helpful to talk about, your body and what's happening with your body and everything about sex. So now the girls will talk to their friends and say, yeah, no, you got that wrong. That's not how that works.
Oh, wow.
But I'd rather my kids get the, the facts.
Get it from you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think
I got all the
crazy
crazy information from friends that was...
Yeah, most of what I learned
truth.
was outside my home. Not from my mom. Definitely not from my dad. Jesus Christ. That
No.
man will
No,
never talk to me about it.
Those conversations did not exist.
The conversation I had with my dad.
Mine was from overhearing the conversations my dad would have with my uncles and stuff like that. Granted, now, me and you kind of had this talk when we were at lunch. I was molested young, like 8. So there was that experience, and then that's why, masturbation, I was 10. And then, honestly, after that, it was more so just once my parents, or I would have a lot of talks with my sister because she knew about the situation when I was younger. And, I don't think health education was really that big a deal. It was kind of like they just popped up and, hey, we're going to learn about it for about 10, 15 minutes and then go back to biology. All right, there
diseases in the period.
Pictures of diseases and how a period works. That's
that was pretty much it. So, and the whole threat from my dad was, hey, look, fucking, you bring a baby in this house and you're going to die. So it's like, well, I guess I'm not having sex no time soon. So.
That's kind of how my dad was, but he kind of went to the extreme. He was like, you know what? How old are you? Cool. Look, you ever start thinking about getting a vasectomy? Those things are reversible. You should.
What age was this?
Really? And did you know that word?
No, I didn't know what that meant.
Was that at 12?
But I was at 13.
What the actual F?
Your dad talked to you about a vasectomy at 13?
Yes. And I went.
I guess that's approach.
I went to my mom. I'm like, what is a vasectomy? She's like, where'd you learn it?
Like that. You're like, what's a vasectomy? Trying to pronounce it.
And she's like, who taught you that? I'm like, my dad said he's gonna give me one. I'm like, and she was heated. But yeah, wow. that was my interaction with my dad. Like, it wasn't a birds and the bees, so it was. You ever think about getting a vasectomy? Like, what? I don't even know what that is.
Speaking of parents, this is kind of not too sexual in the sexual context. Like, who are y'all closest to? Like, which parent could y'all confide in?
My mother.
The most?
Well, I only have one, so my mama.
Okay. Sure. You say your mom. What about you?
My mother.
Your mom.
It depends
on the scenario.
On the situation.
Depends.
that's kind of cool in a way.
I'm a literal split between my mom and my dad.
That's kind of cool though. The fact that you could go to both depending on.
I think because the way me and my dad had our relationship come back together when I was getting out of high school, we had no choice but to mesh together, and I mean we meshed tight. And looking at how I am now, I'm a lot like my father in so many different ways, and I still have a lot of cling to my mother, but it's like when it's certain situations, I know if I go to my mom, I know what she's gonna say. It's gonna be, telling me whatever she's telling me out of emotion. If I go to my dad, he's fucking raw. He's just like, look, motherfucker, like this is what you need to know, blah blah blah. So
that's pretty cool. What about
you?
you?
Did it change at a certain age where you felt like certain topics you needed to talk to dad because you're a boy, like you're a guy, a male? Was it male driven?
It was more so like just when I was younger, it was hard to talk to my dad because he's prior military. So it's like, where's dad? Oh, he's paying bills. Okay, don't talk to dad. No, that was a no. So it would be more like, hey mom, talk to dad. Use your mojo. And then come back. Let me know what happened. So I kind of get my answers from dad through mom, like So after a while, like my a lot more of the aspects of my life that were a lot harder to deal with, dad. When it came to like talking about women and so on and so forth, yeah, there were certain things I could go to my mom about. But,
that's pretty cool. What about you?
I think my mom, but I really wasn't a big talker of things. I was a listener. Like, my family would come to me and tell me stuff. I knew stuff that I'm like, should I really be knowing this right now? Do I need to know that so-and-so? But as I've gotten older, and definitely after I became a mom, my mom is the one that I go to.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a close relationship with my dad at all. Like, anything. Even, like, when I came out, I said, Mommy, you can tell Dad, and then let me know what he says. So, but my mom is, like, my best friend. So, when I came out, that definitely was a really rough patch for us because I'm like, whoa, like, you're the person I tell everything to, and, like, suddenly I'm, like, not acceptable to you anymore. But other than that, I mean, she's, like, my ride or die. So definitely my mom. And I want to have that type of relationship when I have kids, with my own kids. But there's a lot of things that I would do different compared to how she did it, for sure. Not that I'm ungrateful about how she raised me, but there's a lot of things that she did not expose me to. So although I am grateful for our relationship, there's a lot of things that she kept me from that definitely hurt me.
I would say the same. I would definitely say the same.
No, more like...
Because I have to tell you that I watch you and you remind me of my kids.
Oh,
so I'm
that's
like,
cool.
this is like adult version of my children. And so,
Hello, right here.
Right?
It's like...
I'm like feeling her vibe and I'm like, oh my God.
That's
kind of
what's funny? I know that radio's out there. I know she hears.
My daughter.
She turned around.
She's like, what y'all talking about?
She's adorable.
You need to talk to her because
I do. He was telling me about her.
Frequency is like very powerful.
She need to come in here and do another song.
That's pretty
me.
cool. Hey, no, my mama kept me in like a bubble. It was like very rarely did she criticize me. So that I think. It sounds kind of crazy for me to complain that, my mom didn't criticize me, but that hurt me growing up, like, facing the real world, because the instant I would get criticism or, people would treat me, like, poorly, I'm like, damn, like, what the fuck?
Shook.
See,
like...
That's crazy, because with the aspect with my dad, I've seen how he's gone at life with just no strings, and I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. And, yeah, I get fucking axed for it, so it's like... Oh, you got too much attitude and you're just too free-spirited and da-da-da-da. I'm like, well, I get it from my dad. Fuck you, whatever. Like, I don't care.
My mom just put me on too high of a pedestal. And I think
Are you
that
the only
hurt.
child?
No, I have an older sister, but she's special needs. So really, I was like the only outspoken one that brought home stories from school and stuff like that. So to my mom, it was like I was perfect, and that is not.
I think you are, right? Because I think our kids are perfect.
Well, yeah, we think that about our kids, but I think that's so bad because then they go out into the real world thinking that they don't make mistakes. So
see, when Bella come home with some stories about life,
I won't speak for her, but yeah, no, she gets plenty of
criticism. Are those both of your daughters?
They are.
That's
they are
adorable.
Both my girls.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
dear God.
yeah, it's that time, y'all.
Awesome.
It's about that time.
Yeah.
Real talks tonight. Good to have everybody here. Even though we're missing a few. I'm missing
Yes, we are.
I miss Will. You know. But I mean, shout out to Wing King. Shout out to Thai Med Massage. I'm actually trying to go there again.
What? We
next
got a
weekend.
massage place?
There's a massage place.
I'm trying to get a massage.
Right? There's a lot of places out here. But hey, if you're out and about in the streets, please be careful. Especially with some of the recent news that we heard, right?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
please be careful.
Yes.
And
Sad news.
next week, yo. Hey, so Kid and Hook, we know you leaving, man.
I was gonna do that on my outro.
Leaving, man.
We love you. Thanks
We're
for
gonna be at your wedding, all of us.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Even me. Even me.
I'm gonna
I'll be
be
there.
Married right here, as a matter of fact.
You
But
never
anyway,
know,
y'all,
man. Okinawa
and so-
has that magic thing.
Until next time, this your boy TJ, aka Sly.
This is your girl, Abichola. I'm back.
Hey, everybody. Wednesday Rider. Have a good night.
DJ Cass.
You.
Rello.
And checking out for the last time. Until November.
Bye, Felicia.
It's your boy.
Bye, Felicia.
Hey, it's,
Checking
your,
out for the last
it's your boy Ken the Hood checking out for the last time.
That's
Last time. That's not the last time.